Hi, I'm DIY Dave, and today I'm going to show you how to fix a gas leak on a Stihl multi-trimmer. Enjoy! Here's how my trimmer is stored in the garage, and what I found was the gas had been emptied or drained out, and it was leaking out this area here. Oh, you can see it. You see the drops there? Dropping right down on the floor, and you can see it's all kind of stained there. So that's how I found it, and now I am going to start getting involved in fixing it. DIY Dave Productions presents How to Repair a Gas Leak on a Stihl KM110 combo unit. Okay, the first step is to take the air filter cover off, and you do this by using the tool that came with the unit that has a screwdriver head on it, or you could use a normal screwdriver. But this one says Stihl 6-inch, and you use that, unscrew that screw, and then you'll be able to pull that off. Step 2 is to pull the air filter cover off using your hand. So you'll just want to pull that straight out. Step 3 is to remove the air filter. So you'll see the air filter there. You'll simply put your finger on the edge there and just pull it straight out. Step 4 is to unscrew the two nuts holding the air filter housing. You want to use a 5/16 inch socket and unscrew those two nuts, and that'll allow you to take the housing off. This slide just shows the 5/16 socket wrench and how it's used to take those nuts off, and then you can see on the right there the removed nuts. Okay, in step 6 you see the air filter housing being taken off the carburetor. So you want to be careful there to make sure that you pull that straight out. The carburetor doesn't get dirty. And then you can see also the fuel tank air vent, which is the source of the leaking fuel in the case that I'm dealing with. Step 7 is to remove the air vent from the gas tank. You can see it there. I simply pried it off with a screwdriver, ended up breaking the bottom piece, which you'll see in a future slide, but it doesn't matter because this is the piece that's actually going to get replaced. In step 8, you want to remove that impulse tube from the air filter housing. And that impulse tube is what's connected to the air vent there. And then on the right, you can see the exposed brass fitting. So after you remove it, you'll see that exposed fitting. Now, it doesn't matter again if you damage that impulse tube, because that will be replaced also. Step 9, we remove the remaining piece of the air vent on the fuel tank. The top piece I had taken off and it had failed in the middle there, and that's why you're left with that remaining piece. So I took a screwdriver and I pried it up. I also used some needle nose pliers to get the piece off. Doesn't matter again if you damage this, because this is what you're replacing on the unit. In step 10, you pull that connector for the spark plug straight up and release it from the spark plug. So you'll do this as a first step in taking off the cover. Step 11, you remove those two front screws from the unit. So this releases the front of the cover. Step 12, you remove the screw on the back of the engine cover. Once this screw is removed, then you'll be able to lift that cover out of the way. Step 13 shows the cover being lifted out of the way. You can just lift it right up, or you can lift it to the side like I did. Step 14, you remove the throttle cable from the carburetor linkage. So what you want to do is take that end piece there that the arrow is pointing to, pull it slightly, and then pop it out. And then this will allow your carburetor to be free of that linkage. Step 15 shows the cable being pushed out. So once you pull it out of that carburetor linkage, then it'll just make sure that it's out of the way so you can take the carburetor off. Step 16, you pull the carburetor off, so the carburetor is highlighted with the dotted yellow line, and you'd simply slide that off those two threaded studs. The other thing to be aware of is the tubes that are connected from the carburetor to the fuel tank. You'll either want to pull those tubes off or cut them off and replace them. I recommend cutting them off and replacing them, seeing as you're taking the entire thing off, but that's up to you. Okay, in this step you want to remove the fuel tubes from the brass fittings on the carburetor. You'll also want to note that you want to keep that area highlighted in red there free of debris. That is your carburetor, and so you don't want any debris getting into it while you're taking care of the fuel tubes. Step 18, you want to remove any tube remnants from the gas tank. So in the case shown here, I had to cut the tubes off, and so I just want to remove those remaining tubes there from the fuel tank so that they're ready to accept the new tubes. Step 19, you want to insert the new air vent into the fuel tank. On this slide here, you see the Stihl air vent part number in the upper left. This is what you would purchase at your local Stihl dealer. And then in the lower left, you see the actual air vent with the O-ring, and then you see the piece on the bottom there that clips into the hole. And what you want to do is just push that straight into the hole there so that your opening is facing just like it's facing in the picture to connect your impulse tube to. Step 20, you take the impulse line and you attach that onto the air vent until it reaches the main body of the air vent. The part number is shown in the upper left corner there, so you can purchase that from your local Stihl dealer. And the tube is actually cut to the exact length needed when you buy it, so there's no need to cut it. Step 21, you cut 2 lengths of tube and insert them onto the brass connections on the carburetor. So you can see them in the picture on the left there. You can see the 2 lengths of tube. All you're doing is cutting them and then putting them on those brass fittings there. Don't hook them to the fuel tank yet. Just get those in position. Step 22 is to slide the carburetor into position. So you've got the tubes on the carburetor and you slide it on those 2 threaded studs right into position there. Step 23, you slide the fuel tubes onto the fuel tank nubs. So if you look at the picture on the left there, you want to make sure that that impulse line is right where it shows it being positioned. You don't want it on the outside of those fuel lines. And then you'll take those fuel lines and slide them right over the nubs of the fuel tank. So then you can see on the picture on the right exactly how it looks with the air vent and the impulse line in the back there. Step 24, you reattach the throttle cable to the carburetor. So you can see the cable there. You want to pull the cable down as it shows on the left side there, and then pull it down enough so that you can lock it into the holder. And once you do this, then you should be all set. Step 25, you insert the impulse tube into the air filter housing, brass fitting, and then slide it into position next to the carburetor. So you can see on the picture on the left there that impulse tube being pressed into the brass fitting, and then once you press it in, then you're able to put the air filter housing right into position. Next, we fasten the 2 nuts into the air filter housing using a 5/16 inch socket as shown in the picture there. Step 27 is to insert the air filter into the air filter housing. In this case, I bought a new air filter to put in as long as I was taking the entire thing apart. Step 28 is to fasten the air filter cover onto the housing. You can see the screw highlighted there that you would use to attach that cover onto the housing. Step 29 is to place the engine cover back into position and fasten the 3 screws. So if you look at number 1 on this chart, first you would place the cover into position over the engine. And then number 2, you would install the screws on the front of the cover. So you see those 2 screws there to fasten. And then step 3 is to install the screw on the back of the cover, which is the final screw. Once you've done this, then your cover is set. Step 30 is to install the spark plug connector, and you would simply just push that black piece right down over the spark plug until it locks into place. Step 31 is to fill the gas tank with fuel and start the unit normally. At this point, the leak is fixed. Nice job getting it fixed, and you can be back into business of taking care of your lawn. Remember, if something needs to be done in your life, look in the mirror for the right person before exploring other options. No one cares more about the quality, the cost, and execution in your life than you. Like this video and subscribe. Thank you for watching a DIY Dave production.